South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Good morning. Welcome in, everyone. It is Sports by the Book on a Tuesday morning. I'm Jeff Parles. She is Alex White. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning to everybody besides the people associated with Kansas State. Brutal loss yesterday.
Anti-purple. No, it was a flip yesterday. Utah wins, covers that one late last night. Arizona got a nice win in Waco also late last night as well. Impressive what Tommy Lloyd and company have done after a pretty awful non-conference schedule. Only one game over 500. Well on their way to getting a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. That was part of the recap from last night.
Sorry.
Yesterday, real quick, so we know now, Team Canada beats Finland. Team USA loses to Sweden, but that game did not matter in the Four Nations face-off. So we get USA-Canada Part 2. Of course, we saw it on Saturday. Team USA won 3-1 in Montreal. We now do it again in Boston on Thursday night. Well, the full preview on Thursday morning, Alex. It's a flip behind us. 5.5 your total for this one on the initial openers.
Scary thing is a few injuries in the USA-Sweden game, right? So Brady Tkachuk did leave that game, and also the defenseman. I'm blanking on his name right now, Charlie McCoy. Trying to get everyone healthy. Few days off, though, so we'll see what happens. Canada did make some line changes. Looked very good to start that game against Finland, especially the first 2 periods. But it's basically a coin flip. It's going to be a very tight game between these two. I don't anticipate it starts like the last game with the 3 fights in 8 to 9 seconds, but I think throughout that game we'll see just as much tension.
The McAvoy is definitely out.
Thank you.
Hughes still can't technically be activated yet, but looks like Quinn Hughes will be active for Team USA instead. There are injuries on the Canadian side, as we know as well. But again, this has been the few guys may miss some time NHL-wise, but I think unlike some other sports where we've seen injuries in these big international tournaments, I think the NHL guys aren't quite as upset as you would have seen in some other sports, looking at UW World Baseball Classic of 2 years ago, to say the very least. College hoops-wise, the only game of note we did not mention from yesterday, Duke really put it on UVA last night, 80-62. Duke shoots over 50% from the field as Cooper Flagg did it again. The current overwhelming favorite to win National Player of the Year, 17-14 the night ago, as Duke is now 15-1 in the ACC, 23-3 overall. Easy cover. That game, where was the total on that game, Alex?
That game was it was 133.5.
So it went over pretty easy.
Did go over pretty easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kneffel added 17. Isaiah Evans also added 17 for the Blue Devils in that one. Let's look at one college hoops game real quick. As we'll start right now in the Big East. Starting with Villanova and Connecticut, Alex. This is one of these games from this past weekend where it was a nightmare weekend for both of these teams. Villanova, look, it was probably about time today had an outing where it didn't go off well. They had a big win against St. John's earlier in the week. They go out to get pretty well handled by Providence. UConn goes to Newark and it was the worst conference loss of any of the Power 4+1 that happened this year. They blew a big lead at the end of regulation. They blew a 5-point lead in the last 35 seconds of overtime, lose to Seton Hall. Now they're back home against Villanova, 9.5-point favorites with a total of 138.
With all that being said, I really have nothing in this game, side or total. I think UConn, I would expect a bounce back spot, right? So we saw them beat a big win over Creighton, and then they fall to Seton Hall next. So I imagine that Hurley will have his team ready for this one. But on the flip side, you're right. Villanova is looking for a bounce back spot as well. So nothing for me in this one, side or total. I think those numbers come just right.
I'm going to stay off of it because I wanted to bet on both of these teams here in this game. That's where I'm at. By the way, down to 9 now in this game. This is a great spot to be on both of these teams, but they're playing each other.
Right.
So it makes this a little bit difficult in order to lay 9 with UConn, to take 9 with Villanova. It makes it a little bit difficult in order to bet this. So I think you and I are right. We're in agreement. We're going to pass. We'll see in-game wise. I think I'd rather get Villanova at a bigger number than UConn on a smaller number laying, I think. But we have to see how that game plays out when we watch it. All right, let's go to this is a dynamite game in the Big Ten, Alex. Purdue, Michigan State. So Purdue got pretty well handled at home by Wisconsin in the second half. Game was tied at halftime. Wisconsin won by double figures, and quite frankly, the game wasn't even that competitive in the second half. Michigan State, this is one of those where, Alex, like when a number looks so wrong that it's like, wait a second, why am I not betting this more? But you kind of parse back a little bit because the number looks so wrong. That was the case on Saturday night with Michigan State getting 6.5 at Illinois. The initial number looked pretty good early because Illinois hopped out big, but then Michigan State destroyed them the last 30 minutes, winning with ease. Izzo breaks the record for most wins for a coach in the Big Ten. Now, here you go. 3.5-point favorites at home, Michigan State against Purdue. Total 148, Alex. What do you have on this game?
I have right there, Michigan State 4, but I do have the total lower here at 140.5. So I do like the under. I already bet under 148.5. This Purdue needs to turn it around, but it was a tough stretch for them, right? They lost 2 in a row, playing 3 of the best in the conference, 3 of the best 4, them being one of the 4. Michigan, Wisconsin, and now they've got Michigan State. I would lean to Purdue here with a little bit of a letdown for Michigan State getting that win, although they're going to be playing tough because they did want to get Izzo that record at home. Now they are back home hosting Purdue, but I'm expecting more of a defensive game from these two. Michigan State still top 15 in defense efficiency, and Purdue, they are better on the offensive side, but I think this is going to be more like a conference tournament game here between these two. I made the number lower. I like it. Under.
So under for Alex. This is a difficult one because this is about to sound very strange what comes out of my mouth here. This is somewhat of a look ahead for Purdue because Indiana's on the schedule next. Now, yes, you'd be at home and like, Jeff, what the hell are you talking about? Michigan State, this is like this. Both of these teams still very much alive to win the Big Ten regular season. Yeah, but burying Indiana for good in the biggest rivalry game that Purdue has especially where Indiana played them pretty darn tough the first go-around. That was a 5-point win in Mackey earlier in the season on the final day of January. But I was really, if Michigan State had lost to Illinois, I'd be on Michigan State here because I'll take the home court in a game where two good teams have lost 2 in a row and bet on the home team.
Yep.
With Purdue losing in the fashion they lost to Wisconsin, I have a little bit of a concern about their defense against high-end offenses. Purdue's offense, there's no question Purdue has still got a very efficient offense. They're still, like you said, 8th in the country in Ken Palm on offense. This is a lean to Michigan State. If this gets to one possession, then we would look at the favorite here. Probably would look to money line dance them with somebody else instead of laying the points. But as of right now, north of 3, I'll stay off. Alex likes the under, though.
Kind of like the first game, though, right? Because both teams, Michigan State has Michigan up next, so in-state rivalry there. So both of them, I think they got to be focused for this one first before the next one coming up. But it is funny that happens for both teams.
Yeah, I actually will say, I probably will be on Michigan on that Friday night, regardless of result here for Michigan State. Michigan, by the way, with a really nice win at Ohio State on Sunday afternoon in a back-and-forth game where Ohio State closed a small favorite. So there's a nice little plus money price on the Wolverines if you got it on Sunday afternoon. All right, moving along. Up next, we go to Oklahoma and Florida. Alex, I'm more curious than just the actual number in this game from what you have, because you have this is 14 and 157. Where do you have Florida in your power rankings right now? Because the Gators have moved ahead of both Duke and Alabama in the AP poll to number 2. Right now, they're about the consensus number 4 overall seed by most bracketologists. Where do you have Florida in your power rankings right now? Is only Auburn's ahead of them in the AP poll?
I don't have my power rankings ranked right now. I kind of just have them in alphabetical order.
So what is your number on Florida?
But
if you want to do that.
Let me check here on this sheet. I don't have it on here yet, but I don't have them quite that high as 2. I think they are like 4 in mine right now, but I have them 16 here at home against Oklahoma. So, I mean, they are definitely moving up in the power ratings as well. But I think that number, I don't want to lay that number with Florida, even though they are at home and they have been winning by these double digits. But nothing for me in this, and I did pass on this one.
Florida has 3 losses this year. Kentucky beat them in that epic game to begin conference play, 106-100. They had that home loss to Missouri, where Missouri hung on for dear life, won the game by a point. And then Tennessee clocked them in Knoxville. That was the game where Florida just could not do anything offensively, only 44 points. Their defense was actually good in that Tennessee game. They held Tennessee to exactly 1 point of possession, and it still was not enough because 44 is not a good outing on that. So this is more about Oklahoma than it is for me with Florida. I don't think this Sooner team's any good. I think that they played way above their heads in non-con. And right now, that non-con is saving them if they're going to make the NCAA tournament, which is odd to say in an SEC that is completely loaded. In non-con, they beat Arizona on a neutral. They beat Michigan on a neutral. Those are 2 top 4 seed line teams that they beat. In conference play, their best win is Vanderbilt. The other 2 teams that they beat in conference play, South Carolina, the worst team in the SEC, and Arkansas, who is squarely on the bubble right now, probably on the outside looking in entering today. I don't think just look at what they've done away from home, except for that win at Arkansas. Bama beat them by 28. They lost by double digits to Georgia. A&M beat them by 7. That's the most competitive road game they've had. Auburn beat them by 28 or whatever. What are you going to do? Yeah. Missouri last week beat them by 24. They have not been competitive on the road. So I like your 16 better than the 14. It's just a matter of, do you have the stomach to lay 14 in a conference game when the opponent that's getting at this many points, even though I think they're not that good, they're not a complete pushover like some other teams. So
right, and you don't want them to overlook them either and maybe come out a little slow. So I did just unhide some columns there. Imagine that. I have them 130 right now, where 100 is the average basketball team. So comparing them to the Big Ten teams that we just went over, about 4 points better. Have Michigan State and Purdue both at 126. So 130 for me.
130, okay. All right. Florida, I just want to throw this at you real quick with the Gators. Look, Walter Clayton is a very difficult guy to contain. They've dealt with injuries on the team because Elijah Martin missed this past weekend. Clayton has been banged up. I'm interested to see once we get to the NCAA tournament, what Florida's draw is. I think they're going to be very draw dependent. Do they get the easy region because they get sent out west, or do they play their way up into the East or Midwest, depending on where the committee decides to do it? I think Duke is going to get the East. They want Duke in the tri-state area since Newark is the home of the East region this year. All right, more SEC. Let's go to Mississippi State and Texas A&M. Aggies over the weekend. Boy, that was a topsy-turvy one. If you had any play in that A&M Arkansas game, that lands right on the darn number at 8. And now when Arkansas got out huge, A&M led by double digits most of the second half. Arkansas misses a free throw at the end that would have made it a 7-point game, and the game lands exactly 8. Now it's 2.5 with Mississippi State favored at home against Texas A&M. Mississippi State got a much-needed win on the road in Oxford earlier this week, a really good win at that, to complete the season sweep of Ole Miss, which is pretty darn impressive with how even those teams are. So, yeah, this is a letdown spot. Mm-hmm. But I like the home team in this game because of one reason and one reason only in this game. At some point, Texas A&M's style of play is going to hurt them in conference play. They have won a lot of games in conference play. They are 9-3. I don't think they're 9-3 quality. I don't think they're as good as the AP voters think. I think they're closer to where Ken Palm has them, which is the mid-teens. I think this is a dead even game. I think Mississippi State has a little more offense when it's all said and done. As always, when playing Texas A&M, can you keep them off the offensive glass enough? They are number 1 in the country offensive rebounding. They rebound 42.4% of their misses, Alex. That's absurd when you think about it. That's a solid 4 percentage points better than anyone else in the country. You keep them in the mid-30s, you can beat them. If Mississippi State does that, they do that, they cover. I am on the Bulldogs, even with the letdown spot hanging over potentially late at 2.5 with the Bulldogs here tonight.
I would lean to taking the points here, and I know it's probably square because the better ranked team getting points, that's what a lot of public likes to look for here. But I do think that they're about 2.5 points better than this Mississippi State team, and I know it's a tough place to play, so I didn't play it. I'm going to stay off of it, but I like how Texas A&M is playing. They've won 5 in a row, and I definitely think they're the better defensive team as well as that offensive rebounding there. So nothing for me in this one, staying away. And I think that total comes just right as well.
Good, again, these SEC games, you just get good games after good games, one after another in this league this year. All right, let's go to Fort Worth next. Texas Tech, TCU. Horned Frogs have had problems this year, to say the very least. I think they've been one of the bigger underachievers this year in the country, period. 14-11, they're going to have to win the Big 12 tournament or win out the regular season, which they win this game not as impossible as you may think with the way their schedule goes the rest of the year. So this one opened 8.5, and it's been battered down to 7 and 6.5 in the market here on this one. 140 the total on this. Alex, I thought the 8.5 was great on TCU. Now, not so much. I would stay off of this game, but I know you're looking at the total.
I am looking at the total here. I like this under. Even though, Texas Tech, their trends have been more over, and they've had slower paced games, but their offense, they've been so efficient. But looking at TCU, they're 16-7 to the under this year, so I think that they will help us keep that pace low. Tech did win already at home this year, so no revenge for either one. They won 71-57. And we know TCU is a very tough place to play. So I'm looking at more of this as a defensive game. And then if you look at TCU, too, at home, 10-3 to the under this year. So going with some trends. And I made this game lower as well. So under for me between these two.
Looking at Butler and Xavier next, Alex. These are two teams that I always have hard times finding angles to bet these teams. But this is a 7-point line here at the South Point with Xavier laying it at home. There's some 6.5 in the market. There is still some 153 on the total, but it's mostly 154 now on this one.
I did jump in at 153 going over in this one. Xavier, a little bit quicker pace than Butler, but both of them are much better offensively than they are defensively. Some trends to go with us as well. Butler 15-10 to the over this year. Looking at them home and away. Butler 5-2 to the over on the road. So again, going with some trends and matching the numbers up, I do think we'll get some points in this one.
I'll pass. If anything, maybe a little slow start, get a better number in that total, and go from there, Alex, on the over on Butler and Xavier. All right, let's go to Ames next. Colorado on the road at Iowa State. 18 for this one, and that is a lot of points, Alex, but I saw that number and I was like, you know what? That feels exactly where it should be. Colorado finally got that conference win that they've been looking for. They beat Central Florida over the weekend. Iowa State has stabilized things after the 3-game losing streak. They've won 3 in a row. They've won all of them by double figures. I would stay off, but if there is blowout potential, I would much rather lay the 18 than take the 18 in this game, as crazy as that may sound.
Wondering if there's a way to play this first half. I don't know if
first half number right now is 11.
Oh, no, that's
steep.
Very, very steep. I would lean to the under here. Trends matching the under for both of these teams as well. Iowa State 10-4 to the under at home, and then Colorado 5-1. Man, Colorado did finally get that first win at home, though, 0-7 right now on the road and not covering either, 2-5 ATS. So pass for me in this one. Lean to the under, even though Iowa State has been much better offensively.
Another big-time Big Ten game to look at here now. Wisconsin hosting Illinois. Now, it's kind of the same sort of deal we were talking about the other game, right? Wisconsin goes on the road. They really smack up Purdue in the second half, win that game as an underdog. Illinois at home on a night where they put Terrence Shannon Jr.'s jersey upside down. Still don't know how that happened. They lose that game to Michigan State. So I'll just say this, Alex. I think Illinois is incredibly overrated at this point. They're still treated in the market like the team they were earlier in the season. They're not that same team anymore. And Wisconsin, who, by the way, is beloved by the analytics community. Ken Palm has Wisconsin at number 9 in the country right now, which I think is a smidge high. But you know what? They played at a very high level over the last few months since they lost to Illinois back on December the 10th. They've only lost twice. So we have revenge going for us, which you're a bigger revenge fan than I am. But I think that outweighs the potential sleepy spot here for Wisconsin. And I just don't think the Illini are particularly good. I like the Badgers. There is some 3.5 out there if you can find it, but I still like it very much at 4 because that's the predominant number that's in the market here, Alex.
I'm with you. I think they are by far the better team and have been very good at home. It's interesting. Remember Wisconsin last year in February kind of fell off and then made that run in the conference tournament. Now this year they're getting hot at the right time. And they, as the team that has been known for their defense, been so good offensively, and they started that last year as well. Now they are 6th offense efficiency on KenPom, and they are 17-8 ATS this season. So I like the Badgers in this spot at home as well.
Number 1 free throw shooting team in the country. Just remember that when you're dealing with close numbers, 84% for Wisconsin. So that's always a good thing to have on your side when you're trying to close out a game and trying to cover a number. A very high-end free throw shooting team. And the highest of ends. So they're 83.7% right now from the line. Villanova's number 2 at 80.9. So almost 3 whole percentage points better than the next best team from the line. That is, when you're laying points, that's a good thing to have on your side down the stretch.
Oh, yeah. Especially if we get the fouls at the end, like with the other team trying to come back.
Houston and Arizona State up next. This one intrigues me here because this was noted on the broadcast on Saturday with Houston and Arizona that the Cougars didn't stay in Arizona. They went back to Houston and flew back to the Phoenix area for this game with Arizona State. Now, the question, as it is with all these inferior opponents, the more inferior opponents against Houston, is can Arizona State score enough to cover here as an 11.5-point home underdog, Alex? I'm just curious how this plays out because we're going to start seeing this more in the Big 12 with now the nationwide stuff, I would imagine, because Houston to Phoenix is not a terribly far flight. But I'm just curious, Alex. I stayed off because I thought, all right, it should be either 11 or 12, 11.5 right in the middle. But I just wonder, making about a 2-hour flight twice in a 2.5-hour flight twice in quick succession, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this one more so than anything.
I think so. I don't think that's a terrible flight at all. I think they'll be okay in this one. I lean to the under, actually, with Houston's tough defense, and we've been talking about it all year. Their suffocating defense. And Arizona State, I mean, they're 3-11 in Big 12 play, but 2 of their 3 conference wins are over Colorado. So really haven't been that competitive in Big 12 play. Houston, by far the better team. I have it 12.5, so I think that number is just right. Not enough for me to jump in with a difference, and same with the total. I've got it 131.5, so not a big enough difference, but lean to the favorite and the under here.
Another Big 12 game with another team going west. The Utah two-step for Kansas. We saw Kansas State get swept on it. Jayhawks trying to avoid the same fate. After losing on Saturday night in Salt Lake, now there's the little south in Provo. BYU just smacked around K-State on Saturday. BYU is a big home road split team, Alex, where this is, boy, I really I'm looking for reasons to bet Kansas here in this game because this is a Kansas team that, I mean, you look at their schedule, they could go 10-10 in the league, which is unheard of for that program, obviously. They're going to probably win the next 2 after this. And other than that, they're going to be an underdog in Houston for sure. And they should be the slightest of favorites against Texas Tech and Arizona at home. And I'm not even sure that matters at this point. But I can't do anything here because I don't trust Kansas with the way they have played, especially of late, where they are just so wildly inconsistent, which is something that just doesn't happen under Bill Self. They have alternated win-losses since January 22nd, Alex. They have not had a winning streak of more than 2 since January 5th through January 11th. So they have been wildly inconsistent, or you could argue they've been very consistent, one on, one off so far, Alex.
Well, and you talked about BYU and their home road splits. Kansas is the same way. They have not been good on the road, 3-6 straight up and 3-6 against the spread. So if you want to just go off of that alone, you would definitely be on BYU here. 12-2 straight up at home, 8-5 against the spread. So I think that number's right at 3, but I would not mind playing the Cougars money line in this one.
Minus 155 on the money line, so $1.55 if you like BYU. All right, Big Ten game before we bring Kenny White on. UCLA, Minnesota. We know the Bruins home road splits yet again. Been unbelievable on the western part of the country. They have not been good away from it, even though they finally won one in Bloomington earlier last week. 11.5 right now in this one, a total 131.5, Alex.
Yeah, of course. Frank had them in that game, so it only makes sense that they got the win there. I like the under, though, in this one. I'm going under 131.5 between these two. UCLA, very good defensively, play a slow pace, and both of them actually play a slow pace and are better defensively than offensively. First game of the year for these two, so I think under is the right play in this one.
Yeah, UCLA, we only have 2 more road games for UCLA, by the way, and then the Big Ten tournament. So 1 win outside of the Mountain Time Zone this year for UCLA. Only 1. And the Mountain Time Zone win was in Arizona, which for half the year is the same time as the Pacific Time Zone. So there you go.
We're going to have to check all of those at the end of this year, the splits.
Well, I mean, theirs is the most egregious of anyone, I think, because they don't lose in the Pacific Time Zone. They have 1 loss in the Pacific Time Zone this year. And the funny part of it is, it was to New Mexico, just down the road from us in Henderson. That's their only loss in the Pacific Time Zone this year, because of course it was.
Yeah.
So There you go.
What about USC though? And
USC,
some of these other?
we'll go through all of the rest of them a little bit later. USC, I know won at Illinois earlier in the year, but that is their only Eastern swing win in conference play. Oregon won at Ohio State and Penn State. That's it for them. And then Washington won at Penn State over the weekend and at Minnesota. Because, of course, Washington has tied for the most wins outside of the Pacific time zone for those Pac-12 teams now in the Big Ten. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, more college hoops to get to. Some other games on the card. We'll get them with Kenny White when we get back. Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio.
If you're celebrating a special occasion or just love fine dining, you're in the right place. Come experience the crown jewel of South Point restaurants, Michael's Gourmet Room.
Welcome.
With over 600 different types of wines and magnificent dishes prepared tableside, you'll revel in the rich classic Vegas decor and the best black tie service in the world. This intimate gourmet room has earned accolades galore. Come to Michael's Gourmet Room for an unforgettable dining experience. Another famous restaurant is the Silverado Steakhouse, where you'll find the charm and service that discerning patrons require. From top quality steaks and chops to fresh seafood and desserts, you'll love the award-winning wine list and menu at Silverado Steakhouse. Steak lovers have even more options with primarily prime rib. Catering to hearty appetites, the menu features a variety of flavorful prime rib cuts, dry-aged to ensure tenderness, and then seasoned and slowly roasted. Although prime rib is our specialty, it's not the only thing on the menu. There's something for everyone. And if you're craving a taste of Italy, come experience delicious Italian cuisine and the attentive service at Don Vito's. Our culinary team starts with the freshest ingredients and transforms them into traditional favorites. And don't forget Italian desserts. Don Vito's. Savor the taste of Italy. Finally, if sushi is more your style, join us at the popular Zenshin Asian restaurant and sushi bar, where we're serving up the freshest sashimi, nigiri, and sushi rolls. And beyond the sushi, an exciting contemporary Asian cuisine menu. Plus a variety of specialty drinks, Japanese and domestic beer, wine, and sake. Balance your hunger with Zenshin.
Welcome back in at Sports by the Book here on a Tuesday morning. Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. Now joining us, you see him on this desk in this chair that I'm usually sitting in. It's our good friend Kenny White with us this morning. Kenny, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Looking forward to this month coming up. I'm looking forward to March, actually. I guess I'm looking forward to getting out of February. Even though it's been a good month, I feel like March is going to be a great month for college basketball, men's and women's.
Men's and women's, indeed, over the weekend. You don't see South Carolina get pummeled like they did on Sunday afternoon. That was the easiest plus 7.5 I've ever had in my life, UConn, on Sunday afternoon, which was good. But, yeah, of course, Kenny bets them all. As we know, there's the AP poll and the women's poll, where Notre Dame, number one for the first time in nearly 5 years. So it's been a while since we've seen the Irish at the top.
That makes him happy. He's had a ticket on Notre Dame for quite some time now.
Projected 1 seed right now for Notre Dame in the reveal that happened over the weekend happened in the men's side as well. The projected 16 seeds at the moment. All right, Kenny, we're going to go back to the top of the rotation board here and we'll work our way through some we did not get in the opening segment of the show. Let's start at Eastern Michigan in the MAC, Miami of Ohio on the road against EMU. Right now, we're seeing Miami of Ohio as a 5-point favorite in this game with a total of 151.5 or 152 right now.
Yeah, Red Hawks having a good year, 10-2, and this is an important conference to know the standings because the top 8 play in the conference tournament. The bottom 4 teams, their season's over with. So you got teams fighting just to get into the conference tournament, and one of those is Eastern Michigan. They're tied for 7th right now. So if the season ended today, I'm not sure how the tiebreakers break out, but they would be 7th or 8th in the conference tournament, but only 1 game up of being eliminated. So Central Michigan and Bowling Green are the two teams knocking on their door, trying to move up in the standings. So this is a big game for Eastern Michigan, but I couldn't play the side. I made the game 4.5, but I tell you, motivation all leads to Eastern Michigan in this game. Stan, he's still a good coach, I think, and I think he'll have his team motivated. I went over 151.5. Both teams play up tempo. Both teams' offense is better than their defense, so not a big play, just a small over on that game.
I'm with you on that over. I do like the trends as well, both of them for their road and home. So Miami, Ohio, 7-3 to the over on the road, and Eastern Michigan 7-3 to the over at home. So hopefully that works out for us today. Let's go to the Big East. Both of these teams looking for a bounce back here. Connecticut laying 9 at home against Villanova, 137.
This is a big game again. Both the top 5 teams in the Big East get a bye in the conference tournament. Everybody makes it. But it's important to have that bye. And right now, Villanova is tied for 5th, and Connecticut's the number 4 seed right now. So Villanova won the first meeting 68-66. I made the game 7. I just don't really have anything there. I know it's going to be a game that both teams, get up for. There was some money for the under today. This opened 139.5 yesterday in faraway places, and down to 137. Now, I'm in at 135. I lean to the under because both these teams do play at a very, very slow tempo. However, they are both far, far better offensively. So I'm passing on this one.
Going back to the MAC again, and we're going to get some more MAC games here today. There's a full card in that conference. Bowling Green, Kent State up next. 6 on the road for the Kent State Zips. The Golden Flashes, I should say. Bowling Green, you said, fighting to try to get into the MAC tournament here with a total of 140.
Yeah, normally I would bet Kent State here. I made Kent State 9. They were 6.5, bet down to 5.5. So the number going against me here is a warning sign not to bet the game. But my biggest warning is Kent State is 7-5 right now, tied for 4th in the conference. They're pretty solidified. I think they're feeling comfortable. They probably, they want to win, but the motivation is on Bowling Green right now at 4-8, tied for 9th. They need to get a win to get in the tournament, and they are 6-4 their last 10 games. They're starting to play some of their best basketball. So I passed on the side, but the total, I'm really shocked how high it is. I'm really amazed how high it is, because when you go back and look, there are several teams in this conference that play extremely fast. These two teams are not those teams. These two teams play slow. I just don't see this total being this high. I made it 125.5. The first time they played 132, it came 75-57. And again, Kent State may be comfortable at 7-5, but still tied for 4th. That's still seeding. I think they're motivated to play, and Bowling Green's very motivated. I think it's a big game for both teams. So I love the under here. Kent State is 15-8 under on the year. They're a solid under team on the road. Well, they've gone under every game on the road this year, 9-0 under in their road games. So their defense is fabulous. It travels. It shows by their under numbers on the road. So, I love it under.
I was going to bring up that 9-0 under on the road. Hopefully we can keep it going in this one today. Keeping it here in the MAC, Akron, number 1 team in that conference. 20-point favorite here at South Point at 159.
Oof.
Yeah, well, this is the kind of game that, Akron can name the score, whatever they want it to be. They can win by 10 if they want to. They can win by 30 if they want to. They're 12-0 in the conference, haven't lost here in Northern Illinois, 1-11. They're 12th in the conference. They're basically out. They're 6 games out of the conference tournament with 6 games to go. They'd have to win 6 in a row. They're 1-11 on the year. It's just not happening. They know they're done. And as Akron at 12-0, a 2-game lead for the conference, I think this is a game that they just go out and have fun. Akron loves to run. Both teams get up tempo. Akron's outstanding offensively, much better than their defense is. I think this is a very high-scoring game. I bet it over 158.5. Not sure what it is now.
Right now, 159 right now on that total for Akron and Northern Illinois. Speaking of teams from the state of Illinois, Loyola goes on the road today to take on Davidson. Kenny, this Loyola team's been a solid bet on at home, not so much on the road here. Davidson lost over the weekend as well. Loyola with a win at home last time out against St. Louis on Friday. Davidson's a 2-point favorite with a total of 140 in this one.
Yeah, I didn't do a lot of digging on this game because my numbers were right there. I made Davidson 2 and 138. Loyola won both games last year. I was kind of hoping for some revenge factor for Loyola. But again, as you mentioned, Jeff, that Loyola has been they've been a decent team at 5-2 covering on the road. So not bad. But again, my numbers are just right there. So I passed on this game. Loyola 4th in the conference right now at 7-5. Dayton 11th in the conference. And I think Dayton's kind of fighting for a bye.
One of those MAC teams that does like to play fast, Ohio, 4.5 at home, and the total 152.5 against Central Michigan.
Yeah, good setup, Alex. They sure do. They get up and down as fast as anybody in the country. And both these teams are, a little better, I think a little better offensively than they're on the defensive end. They're both trending to the over for the year. Ohio 16-7 to the over. Central Michigan 15-8 over. It is a game that I took 5.5 with Central, again, because Central's one of those teams I just mentioned. At 4-8, they are one game out of the conference tournament. They need it badly, and I think that their motivation will get them there. They do have home revenge. They lost 57-55 earlier this year, so that puts them in a good spot. I think it puts maybe in Ohio U maybe a little little bit of overconfidence in this game, and they'll be happy just to win. So I hope it's a close game, but I hope it goes over as well.
Keeping it in the MAC, Toledo's an 8-point favorite at home against Ball State. Toledo losers of 2 in a row, but they do return home after that 2-game losing streak on the road.
Yeah, I know. I played Ball State and thinking, man, Toledo's probably going to be upset and probably they probably have worked hard in practice the last couple of days, and they've been put through the ringer, and they better come out and play better in this one. But I had to take it because I don't think there's much difference in these teams. There's home revenge for Ball State. They got blown out by 18 earlier this year. At 6-6, Ball State is the 6th seed right now. But again, not that much comfort. That's only one game up over the 7 and 8 seeds and 2 games up over the 9 seeds. So I really feel like Ball State, they have work to do to make sure they get in the conference tournament, where Toledo doesn't have as much work to do at the 3 seed right now at 8-4. I'm sure, though, they will play hard because of that, but I think it's going to be a closer game than the line indicates.
Curious if you think Purdue has been practicing very hard after losing to Michigan and then Wisconsin. Now Michigan State will host. Their 3.5-point favorites in the total 148.5.
We have Purdue to win it all at a big price, and it is a long shot pick still because they're not a great defensive team, but they sure are good offensively. And losing 2 in a row to Michigan and Wisconsin is not a bad thing. Those two teams are both playing really well. Michigan right now number 1 in the conference. Wisconsin, I believe, is number 3. So these two, I think, are the best 2 teams in the conference, though, right here, Purdue and Michigan State. I think it's going to be a war. I bet it under. I am a little worried about offensively, as I mentioned, Purdue's such a good offensive team. But they have a defensive head coach. And Tom Izzo, his team's at home. They're not going to allow transition baskets here. They're going to force Purdue into half-court sets, and I'm going to go with that under because of Tom Izzo. And the Spartans are 15-9 under on the season, too, which helps. And even looking at Purdue on the road, they're 5-3 under on the road this year. Michigan State 8-4 under. So I just think it's a war. Even though we got 2 good offensive teams, Michigan State's defense is very, very good, especially at home.
Oklahoma, Florida, real quick, Kenny. Alex and I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, but look, Florida has played at an elite level. Oklahoma has struggled since conference play has begun. 14 on this one with Florida against OU with a total of 157.
Yeah, I'm right there, Jeff. I made it 16, but when I looked at that game, I thought that's too many points to give Oklahoma. I don't care who they're playing; they're just too well coached. I think it'll be a little bit closer. I like Florida as a team. It's another team that I bet at 14-1 to win the NCAA tournament. Love their offense; they're outstanding, but their defense is starting to pick it up as well. So, looking at that Florida Gator, the Gators defense, I've gotten the top 10 now. So. It's a very good all-around basketball team, but it's still couldn't lay it here, and I couldn't play the total. It was right there. I passed.
Any differences in this one? Mississippi State 2.5 at home against Texas A&M 143.
I made Mississippi State 1 and 144 right there. I was hoping there was some revenge factor I could play A&M with, but there wasn't. A&M won the only contest last year at home against Mississippi State.
In the MAC, Western Michigan and Buffalo here, not the greatest of games, but Western Michigan a 2-point favorite on the road. In Western New York against the Bulls with a total of 154. There's some 2.5 in the market, including right behind us.
Yeah, money for Western Michigan. They've got revenge. They lost at home earlier this year, 85-76. They're tied for 7th, 1 game up to be in the conference tournament. There's still 6 games to go in the conference, but, every game counts so much now. Buffalo is sitting on the outside looking in at 3-9. They're 2 games out. They could pick up a game here with a win, so I know they're going to come to play. My number says bet the game under, but I did cross it off for the fact that Buffalo plays so fast, and neither one of these teams can play any defense whatsoever. So I passed. I'll watch this. I was hoping to get a bet on Western Michigan -1, but I missed it, and it's up to 2.5 now.
ACC here, after a great non-com, Pittsburgh is just 6-8 in conference play. 10.5-point favorites, though, here at home against Syracuse and 146.5.
Yeah, this is a bad year for Syracuse. I really didn't have anything here. There is revenge. Syracuse lost at home 77-73 this year, so I adjusted down to 8 for Pittsburgh, 145 on the total. So I'm right there in these numbers. I'm just going to pass on that game.
Kenny, do you agree with the market move in the TCU Texas Tech game? Opened 8.5, now down to 6.5, and there is a 7 behind us, but it's mostly 6.5 with the Red Raiders laying it on the road in Fort Worth.
Yeah, this was a game I was going to bet early. I made it 12. I think Texas Tech's a far better basketball team. However, motivation is everything right now. Texas Tech 11-3. They're in 3rd place. They have a 3-game cushion for the double bye with 3 games to go. I just don't. With 6 games to go. I don't think Texas Tech's motivated. They won the earlier contest 71-57. I think all the motivations for TCU, who right now is at 7-7 in the conference, they're number 8, and the top 8 teams get a bye, so they're right on the cusp. They need a win. I think the motivation all is TCU. So it looks like a dummy move. Yesterday, this opened 7.5 in Central America, and bet up to 9 later in the day. So I think it was kind of setting the market up to maybe come back and bet TCU. So I have Texas Tech higher. But I think all of the motivation in this game, and motivation is everything. Motivation's on the Horned Frog side.
Going back to the Big East here, Xavier, they're about 5th in the Big East right now, 7-point favorite at home, and Butler 9 out of 11, total 153.
Yeah, I was hoping to get a bet here on Butler because they lost the conference tournament to Xavier last year. Both teams right now kind of in a situation where they must win. Xavier tied for 5th. The top 5 teams get a bye, so they need to win. And Butler at 5-9, they're in 9th place. They need to move up in the standings a little bit. But I passed on the side. I bet the game over. I made it 161. Butler has been an over team all year, 15-10, and the team that runs is Xavier. Both teams far better offensively than they are the defensive line. And so I think I'm going to get the possessions, and I think I'll get the effective field goal percentage in this game to get it over.
153, that just came back down. That one's been toggling all over the map here this morning between 152.5 and 154 on that game. Now in 153 on Xavier and Butler. Iowa State is a huge favorite against Colorado, Kenny. 18-point favorites with a total of 142 on this one. Kenny, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm revenge factor. Colorado is revenge against everybody except Central Florida now. But Iowa State, and it's another game that Iowa State can name the score. They have to be focused, though. They're the 4 seed right now in the conference, which puts them in a spot that they need to win. The top 4 teams get a double bye, so there is motivation. So my numbers say I should bet Colorado, but these type of wagers plus 18.5 on teams has gotten me nowhere over the years because of the the home team is so much better. They could be up 20 at halftime and cruise to a 24-point win. So I passed it, just the fact that, it's just a mismatch. And Iowa State, as I said, they have some motivation. They need to win. And number 4, the 4 seed right now, they're not guaranteed that double bye yet. So I think they come to play hard.
How about this matchup in the Mountain West? Air Force still looking for their first Mountain West win of the season, getting 8.5 in Wyoming, total 128.
That's always motivation. Teams trying to get that first win after a long losing streak. We saw it with Colorado. And Air Force, they're disciplined. They're going to be ready to play. But can they cover the spread? They do have revenge. They lost 70-65 at home. I adjusted it to 8.5. I just don't have a big enough gap to play this. And I wish I had a bigger gap on the total, though, because both these teams play so slow. They're well below average offensively, especially Air Force. And they both play decent defense, especially Wyoming plays very good defense at home as well. So I just don't have big enough defense, but I definitely lean to the under.
Going to the OVC, Tennessee State and UT Martin. Skyhawks of Tennessee Martin, 3-point home favorites against the Tigers of Tennessee State.
Yeah, I didn't dig too deep here because my numbers were right there, Jeff. I made Tennessee Martin 1.5 and 154.5. And I can tell you that Tennessee State's been a good over machine, 17-6 to the over this year. But again, no play for me.
Jeff was talking about Illinois being a little overrated from what they were at the beginning of the year. And I think you're in agreement here. Wisconsin, 4-point favorite at home, total 161.
Yeah, I love the way Wisconsin's playing, and Illinois has come. They're not playing good basketball, obviously, but coaches have to get their teams to peak at the right time. Brad Underwood's a very good basketball coach, so we'll see what happens to this Illinois team if they're just kind of going through the motions right now, and then when the conference tournament hits, they start to peak. So we'll see. But Wisconsin playing far better basketball. They lost the earlier game this year. It's a game that both teams need to win, though. Wisconsin, number 4 in the conference. Top 4 teams get a double bye. They've only got a half-game lead. So if they lose this game and the other team wins, they'll be looking at just a single bye. And Illinois is one of those teams getting a single bye. They're the 7th seed. They want to move up in the standings. They're 2 out. 2 games out from getting a double bye. So I think there's a lot of motivation for both teams. But I did bet Wisconsin. I found a 3.5 on them. Laid the 3.5 there. If I had to and you twisted my arm, I would lay the 4 if I didn't have a bet on the game.
Going back to the Mountain West, Colorado State and Nevada. Nevada's been a big disappointment in the Mountain West. Just a lot of talent, and it has just not come together in Mountain West play. They've beaten San Jose State twice, Air Force twice, Fresno twice, and UNLV. So 6 wins against the bottom of the league and 1 against the middling team right now. Now in Fort Collins, the Rams are 3.5-point favorites with a total of 137.5 here.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm going to take a shot with Nevada. They have won 4 in a row, but it has been against bad teams. They haven't beaten anybody good. You're right. They do have revenge here. They lost 66-64 at home. I think motivation is everything here. That Colorado State at 10-4, they're tied for 3rd. They have a 2.5 game lead for that bye in the conference tournament. And Nevada looking on the outside, looking to play in the play-in game right now, unless they can continue this winning streak. They're only 2 games out of getting a bye. So I think there's a little more motivation on Nevada. I like the revenge factor. I took 4.5 with Reno here in this game.
We skipped over this one earlier, but Seton Hall coming off of that huge upset over Connecticut, now getting 18.5 against Marquette, total 134. Any differences, side or total?
I used revenge factor in this game. Seton Hall lost at home earlier to Marquette, and I made it 13.5. It was 18 yesterday, down to 17, and now back up to 18.5. I didn't do anything with it. It is one of those games once again where the home team Marquette can really name the score. They'll be happy to win by 10, obviously, because they get the W, or they could just be on tonight and not miss a shot and win by 25. So I passed in the game, and my total is exactly right on at 135.
Houston, Arizona State, we brought up earlier. Houston, instead of staying in the state of Arizona, has flown back and forth a few times the last few days. Houston's an 11.5-point favorite on the road against the Sun Devils with a total of 134.5, Kenny.
Yeah, I made it 13, but I wouldn't want to lay the points with Houston here. Coming off that Arizona game, that's just that I think is more important than even the flying is who you just played, and playing Arizona is always a tough battle. So at 13-1, pretty good lead in the conference. I'm not sure how much motivation Houston has in this game, but again, I can't make a bet on either side. I'm not going to force it and just make a bet here in Arizona State because I think Houston may not come out. If you do want to make a bet on it, maybe it's Arizona State in the first half, because I'm sure if they're closer behind, Kelvin Sampson will wake them up at halftime, and you'll see some good defense in the second half, and Houston could run away with it. So, but I'll pass. But I would lean to ASU.
I know you do have revenge here for the road team, but they're still looking for their first conference win. LSU 2.5 at home against South Carolina, total 139.5. Bottom of the best conference in the country right now.
Yeah, well, if South Carolina was in the Mountain West, we'd be talking about them maybe getting an NCAA tournament bid at 11-3 or something, and battling for the conference championship. They've lost 12 in a row, but all 12 have been to great teams. They haven't played an easy team yet. This will be their easiest team they've played in LSU, because LSU's having a down year. They're 2-10 in the conference. I really thought I was going to get a bet on the game because I have LSU 2, and I thought, all right, I'm going to take 4 or 5 with South Carolina in this game and with a chance to win straight up. But that wasn't the case. The odds makers, the bettors were too smart. They made a very good number on this game. I was close to having an underplay as well here, but I didn't bet it. Both teams are far better defensively than they are on the offensive end. I'll probably take a look at it. I might bet this game under the total. I'll look at it.
Kenny, Boston College and Virginia Tech, two below-average ACC teams. Va Tech, a 1.5-point favorite on the road in Chestnut Hill tonight with a total of 143.
Yeah, I wanted to bet Virginia Tech. I was hoping to get maybe a point or two with them, but they're the favorite. I made them 2 myself. The top 9 teams get a bye in the ACC, and they're right now tied for 9th at 6-8. They're motivated. They want to win. I guess BC's kind of motivated. They want to get in the conference tournament, but they're 2.5 games out with 6 to go. As it looks right now, Boston College will not make the conference tournament. That's why I wanted to bet Virginia Tech. I not sure how the karma is, not the karma, but I don't know. I guess how their attitudes are right now at BC when you're looking at ending the season in 6 games, and after that you don't know what's going to happen to you. So I think Virginia Tech is the more motivated team and more focused team, but I just can't bet it. Too close to the number.
Right when you hopped on, we were talking about Kansas and just their home away splits, and have really struggled on the road this year, coming off a loss to Utah. Now playing in BYU, the Cougars are a 3-point favorite, 148.5.
Yeah, they've always been a really good home team, Kansas, and if they their losses would come on the road, but this year more than they have in the past. And always have been a good under team on the road. They are 7-2 under this year on the road. Their defense has been the key for their team, but my numbers are right there. This is a big game for both teams, that they're tied for 5th right now in the conference, and the top 4 teams get a double bye, but these 2 teams are 2 games out. They're 2 games out of getting that double bye. At least the winner of this game maybe will have a shot. The loser of this game, who knows? They maybe go through the motions the rest of the conference. That's the thing you got to understand in college basketball. It's such a long season that there are points in the year where teams go through the motions because the games don't mean anything, and they're looking forward to that conference tournament. And this is one of those games that's a big game that these 2 teams could have a little bit of a letdown, or the loser could, at least after this game.
Now, this is the first game between these 2 this year, but home revenge here for the Jayhawks, because BYU did win in Lawrence last year. BYU's first year into the conference. Are we giving 2.5?
I don't, because the home team, I'm already giving 5 points home court for them. I would
for
rather,
Kansas.
I would like that if I'm. What's that? Kansas has the revenge?
Kansas has the revenge.
They lost at home to BYU last year?
Yes, they did.
Oh, I didn't have that. I was thinking, I wasn't even thinking that BYU was in the conference last year, but they were, I guess. I would adjust it. I would adjust it 2.5 points and make BYU a half, or I could just make it pick. That's very close to the number.
Yeah.
+3. Yeah, I get. You could talk me into +3 with Kansas. They are the better basketball team, not by much though. And Provo's a tough place to play. That's why I give 5 points home court for it, because it's not easy to get to. You fly into Salt Lake, I believe, and then you got to take an hour ride from Salt Lake into Provo. So anytime you got to take an airplane and a bus, that travel gets a little more difficult. And it's altitude, where Kansas is kind of more lower altitude. So we'll see how they fare here. But I'll look at this a little closer. I may take 3.
UCLA, Minnesota, Kenny, 11.5 on the Bruins here. Total 131.5. I know Alex was on the under in this game. Is that a lean as well for you?
More than a lean. I bet it this morning. Went under 131.5. I think it's a big game for both teams. Again, in the Big Ten, the bottom 3 teams are out. Minnesota is in 14th place right now. They are 1 game up from being out of the conference tournament. So they're in a must-win situation. UCLA is in 5th. The top 4 teams get a double bye, and they're half a game out of being the 4 seed right now. So they're starting to play better basketball. They've been good under team all year, 15-11 to the under. And they're far better. Both teams are better defensively than they are in the offensive end. Minnesota, for some reason, Ben Johnson, from beginning till now, has played slow down basketball. He does not want to go up tempo. They played good transition defense. They're just trying to shorten games to keep themselves in the game. It hasn't worked, but they continue to do it. So I know it's going to be a very low possession game, and I think it's going to be a game where Minnesota's another team. Maybe I look at going under the Minnesota team total, because I only have them scoring 53 points in this game.
Last one here on the regular board. It's been a down year for Fresno State. They're getting 19 at SDSU, total 140.5.
Yeah, I'm right there, I believe. I have 17. I have 15. I adjusted my number down to 15 because the revenge from earlier this year. Fresno lost by 22 at home to San Diego State. My total 142. It's right there. So I passed on this one. I give you one game from the added games that I played. I did bet Lipscomb -3.5 against Eastern Kentucky. I always love where I'm in a situation where the better team has home revenge, and Lipscomb's definitely the far better team here. I think they could win. I only made the game 6.5, but that's because I gave full home court for Eastern Kentucky. If I didn't give any home court, I can make this game 9.5, and I think that's kind of more closer to what the game should be.
Kenny, before we let you go, we'll get the whiteboards here in a second. Just, do you have any thoughts early on the Four Nations final coming 2 days from now? USA and Canada right now a flip with a 5.5 total.
Yeah, well, Alex and I both have USA plus 160. They were the best team in this tournament going into it. Now you got a little revenge factor, though, for Canada. They lost at home. And, these revenge factors, I think, are real because athletes get big heads and they feel like every game's the same, and it's not. They feel, the 3-1 win, hey, we could do that. We did that in Canada. Now we're going to do it at home. And I guess, it's just that motivational factor. I think this game's going to be a war, and it's going to be a really, really tough game. I like it under the total just for that fact that both teams are so good, and I think it's just going to resemble that other game. It's like a Game 7 here when you're going for a championship in the Four Nations.
Right now at the South Point, Chris walked in and gave us this sheet. There's props available already for the final. Team total's already up, 2.5 on both sides, -145 on the over for both of them. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 different players available to score a goal in the game. Not the first goal, but any goal in the game, Alex.
Yeah, first goal may be coming, though, because Chris was interested in some of those odds I was telling him before the show. So, yeah, we'll have to dive into this. Maybe we'll have some thoughts. Kyle Connor plus 425 anytime goal. It's jumping out to me already. But the next 2 days, we'll go over this more.
Kenny, before we go, let's get Alex's whiteboard, and we'll get your board as well, but we'll get Alex's first.
Okay, more plays than normal. I was going to go through this and take some off of it, but we're going with 7. I would love a 5-2 day here. That would be fantastic. Miami, Ohio, Eastern Michigan, we're going over 151.5. Kent State and Bowling Green under 140.5. Purdue and Michigan State, tight, slow down game, 148.5. We're going under that. Texas Tech and TCU as well, under 140.5. Butler, Xavier, over 153. My only side here with both of you, I hope I don't mess that up for you. I almost took it off. Wisconsin, we're laying the 4 against Illinois. Minnesota, UCLA, under 131.5. Those are the whiteboard plays.
That's a big board today. Kenny's got 4 on his, as you see on your screen right now. Roll through them, Kenny.
Yeah, I could play all 7 of Alex's plays, but I decided to pare mine down to the 4 best that I had today. Bowling Green under the 140. I think it's very shocking to me. And if you go back and look at these two teams and how they play and how the rest of the conference plays, they all play fast. So that's why some of their scores are higher. But when they do play slower teams, they do come lower. Wisconsin minus the 4, UCLA, Minnesota under 131.5, and then Lipscomb on the offboard minus the 4.
The only thing I'm going to play today is Wisconsin, and that's the big one, and then Mississippi State as well, even with the potential letdown. Those are the 2 that I'm looking at here today. I don't get a whiteboard. My last name's not White, so just throwing that out there to everyone who has asked about that. So shout out to everyone in the chat. Damon, JR from the ballpark, Moses, Dean's in there, Christopher's in there, 40 Kid likes BYU tonight. Roger Long also likes BYU. Oh, there are too many people who like BYU in the chat.
On the money line, though.
On the money line,
yeah.
Yep. Joey B's in there, Vicarious Vegas, Mickey, Minidar, Adam Westbury. We all thank you for being in the chat with us. Kenny, we'll see you in the studio tomorrow. Thank you, as always, for hanging out. Alex, good work, good luck to everyone who's made some bets. Jerry, Drew Dog, and Vince, Ryan, Sean, thank you all. I'm Jeff Parles. We're back tomorrow. 10 a.m., all 3 of us right here on the desk for Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio.